So I have something more to tell. But of course, when you are done, feel free to leave. See, and that is the topic of database curation. As I said, we need volunteers to work on a database. But I can imagine that you have no clue what will be involved and whether or not you are eligible to work as a curator. Well, what is a curator? A curator is a volunteer who is willing to spend time and expertise with the databases. And that's the main criteria. You work then on one or more genes, depending on your specific interest and the time you have available. Depending on the time available, the minimal effort you have to do is you curate incoming information. As soon as there is a submission in a gene where you are a curator, you get an email copy because the submission is non-public. Because somebody needs to check it's a trustworthy submission. And as a curator, you do that check. And you try to add information from publications which the author themselves did not submit to the database. And when you have additional time, you can of course promote the database, write labs, authors or journals to convince them that a journal should not accept papers when the data are not submitted to a database, or the labs and the authors to share new variants immediately with the database and not wait till they have time to write another publication. You can write a paper on the database. That is a positive outcome always. When you collected all the information for a gene, it's, for instance, human mutation likes to receive papers which say, I put all effort in one specific gene or one disease, and I collected all the variants from the literature, and the database is now up to date as of the moment I submitted the paper. And of course, you also can try to get some financial support to do your work. Some curators are quite successful for that, and they get paid by often a patient organization to curate the database. The reward you will receive is you will feel very good because you did do voluntary work. You get many compliments and also questions from people, because when they have a question, they always start with a compliment. So I like but I have a question. You are suddenly considered as the leading expert in the world on this gene. That was when I started with the Duchenne gene and the database. I was surprised that people immediately thought I was the world leading expert on Duchenne muscular dystrophy because I had a database. The good thing out of that is I got several opportunities to collaborate on a joint paper, because some of these people asked very interesting questions regarding the patients. And we decided we'll have a look in the Leiden patients as well, collected some other groups, studied in detail specific types of variants or specific features of the phenotype, and together wrote a paper on that. And that was because I got that opportunity because I was listed as the curator of the gene. And of course, what I explained yesterday, you can put it on your CV, and when there is a vacancy in Leiden, you might be eligible and get selected. Because when you're not a database curator, you can forget to get a job in Leiden. The curation itself, you receive a copy of all the variants that have been submitted. And what you have to do is check the correctness of the entry. Does it follow the standards of the database? When everything is okay, you just make the record public. When you have some questions or things are clearly not okay, for instance, you notice that G dot and C dot descriptions don't match, you contact the submitter by replying to the email and ask to clarify the problem, and then he does it and you can curate it. And when you have doubts, for instance, when you have a question in general, for instance, is this a trustworthy submitter? Then you can contact the database curator and you can together sort it out. It has happened never that I got a submitter which I doubted whether or not it was useful to add that data. So nobody tried for fun, as far as I know, to add data. It does happen that patients or families register their own data. What I then usually do is I contact them because they registered as submitter with their home address and with their private telephone number, and I suggest I put it in the database under my name, and as soon as there is a question, I just forward the email request to you so that you can still be found. But some people say, no problem. I want to be found, and they can come to my home to discuss the patient. They want to find a patient like me. And also, when you have suggestions to modify the database to make it better, you can also contact us. What will happen is, you can imagine, it will be put on the to-do list. But it helps us when a lot of people ask for the same modification to put it higher on the priority list. To apply for becoming a curator, what you need to do first is to register, because only after you have registered we can assign you curator rights for a gene. Then you contact the database manager and give them with a request to give curator rights. And also mention your submitter ID so that we know who is asking this question. Some people include their entire CV, and they think there is a very strict committee looking at whether or not they are eligible as a curator. Of course, we will look in your CV, but it will be very rare that we will say, no, you don't get our permission to become a curator. We are happy with everybody who is willing to spend some time. Most people select a gene on which they do diagnosis in the lab anyhow, and they need an up-to-date database. Of course, you can work then with an Excel file where you keep all the records in your private Excel file. I always say, put that Excel file in the database, then you can work on the database for next submissions, and everybody can profit from the work you have already done. And I already explained the big rewards you get out of this. So it's so that's simple to get to become a curator of a database. Of course, you need to know about genes and variants and phenotypes. I myself am a biologist, so I have no medical background, but I feel quite confident to curate income information on Duchenne muscular dystrophy. The variant descriptions are easy, and the phenotype, well, there's little to change there. Only in rare cases you see a phenotype description which makes no sense, but you can solve that easily in contact with the submitter. So I always say, I hope after one course I get at least one additional curator. People are now looking away. That's not a good sign. Well, thanks for your attention.